It's Carl again with
Eric.
And welcome to Tabletop Tango. We are going to talk a little bit more about Superpowers Companion today. Interesting thing in it called Power Sets. But look at the bubbles, do the stuff. Please support us. Any dollars we get, we're going to plow right into Savage Worlds Kickstarters, material, so we can bring it to the channel. That's the goal. So anyway,
Yes.
This is actually not a big section of the book, but it has a lot of interesting implications.
Yes.
So let's talk about power sets. First off,
Yep.
Eric, what is a power set?
What is a power set? Power sets are the mechanic where you can express that your superhero has different iterations. And what I mean is like completely different, unique sets of powers. Back in the day in 2E, there was the switchable mechanic. Now in the new version, switchable just applies to a single power. So you can use, say, attacked range and have a rate of fire one, and have a one with a burst template. Before, you could do switchable to do multiple sets of different powers. And I think mechanically, you got a lot of bang for your buck using them. You could have a ton of different powers. So in this way, this uses all of your power points. This is something that you set up before the GM even gets there. You say, I have an idea to do this, and this is the rules that allow you to do it. So you can't really have, say, before like Hawkeye, or they have a character in this called some archer character, where Hawkeye has different special arrows, right? Before you could do like a stun arrow that was switchable with an entangle arrow that was switchable with a whatever,
some other arrow,
whatever.
Yeah.
So before you could do that, and it would just all be kind of one that you switch between. Now you can't really do that. You have to take them each on their own. So yeah, the power sets is different. So affects all of your power points. One thing to talk about, there is the transform hindrance in the game. That's something that, like the Hulk, right, has to transform into the Hulk. There's a minor and a major version. They talk about how these can combine. Personally, I don't think the minor hindrance works. It would just kind of be like a free hindrance at that point. The major hindrance would. The major hindrance makes it so either it takes like a full minute before you can actually get to this other form, or that there's a trigger and you have to roll focus to not have it happen. So it definitely will work with the major hindrance.
Right. So the basis is so the basis of this is you take your PowerPoints and you're applying them across two different sets.
Two different sets.
So give us some examples. Give an example so people kind of can wrap their mind around exactly what that is.
It was extremely hard to think of examples for this. I even had to ask some other nerdy friends. Surprise, I have other nerdy friends. Because a lot of the things I could think about before it was switchable was like, oh yeah, I can think of things where they can kind of change. But this is directly unique. So some examples from like DC and Marvel. You have Crazy Jane from the Doom Patrol, Moon Knight from Marvel, Legion from Marvel, Ben 10, it's a cartoon. And then I think of like Pain from the anime Naruto. It's funny because Crazy Jane, Moon Knight, and Legion basically, most of the ones I can think of, these are supers that have different split personality disorder or different personalities. So each personality has their own powers. So that's what made me really think of it. But I really couldn't, maybe in the comment, throw one that you think. But it's extremely hard because, the Hulk doesn't work for this. Bruce Banner is really smart, but they have to be equal in power, right, in their own ways. So an example they give in the book is a cyborg who could then turn into a werewolf. So, full cyborg has all cyborg tech things, and then a werewolf is a melee, regenerating beast. So yeah, again, it's not something that you really see a lot in media.
Yeah, and I welcome everybody, like I had to go ahead and Google all these characters that Eric brought up. That, I'm obviously not nerdy enough of a friend to know these characters. But
in that way, yeah.
So those are kind of some of the examples. So talk about. I think this you have to talk a little bit about how you'd use it to get a feel for how it really works. But kind of get to again, it's half a page, but there's a lot of packed into that half a page. So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about what mechanically it really means.
Yeah. So how you do it is it's based on your power level. So 1 to 5, because that power level decides how many power points you have to spend and what's your power limit. And so as an example, power level of 3, which was 4 colors in the old edition. Basically, you spend. There's a little chart, and like 1 costs 3, 2 costs 5, 3 costs 8, 4 costs 10, and 5 costs 12. So going with 3, it would cost you 8 power points, super power points, to do it. So that's just 8 that you're losing completely. Throw those 8 out the window. And then you have 8 minus, so power level 3, I think, has 45 power points, if I remember correctly. Let's just go with that. If I remember, 4 color has 45 power points.
I don't recall.
Yeah. Absolutely,
a lot
sure.
of numbers.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
So it's 45. So you minus that by 8, and then you have 27 points, basically. 37 points left to spend for both distinct power sets, and your power limit also goes down. Normally your power limit for power level 3 would be 15 power points. Now your power limit is 12 superpower points, which means that you can only spend up to 12 power points in any individual power. So basically, you have to spend an initial cost, and your power limit is lower, but now you have, the 37 and 37 each to spend on completely different powers. Like we said before, a cyborg and a werewolf, right? So a cyborg would have, armor, not toughness, have a ton of armor and have a blaster.
Laser eyes.
Whatever. Laser eyes, and be able to have like jump jets and stuff, right? And then a werewolf would have toughness, not armor, and have claws and have regeneration up the wazoo and have increased speed and stuff like that. So you can kind of see in those ways that those are two very different concepts. Somehow they have them. But that's the example they gave.
Again,
in the book.
always work with your game master to make stuff make sense for your world.
So this is definitely harder than Chewy, where it was like it made a little bit more sense in my mind. But this is, it's here, and it is a cool mechanic, and I do think it's 100% more balanced. And again, balance is kind of an interesting word when you're talking about superheroes, but it's definitely still there, right? You can make very broken characters with superheroes that kind of overshadow the rest of the party and what you're trying to build as a GM. So at the very least, this is definitely good in the way of, that if you give this to a player, it's not going to be overpowered. It does give them more flexibility, but right, you're losing 8 power points in the 4-color game. That is a big chunk. You can do a lot with 8 power points. So it's certainly more balanced. And then
it's really good to take advantage of, or having lost 8 power points, you really have to. I feel like these are completely 2 different things that bring something to the table you don't have the other way. So what you're getting is more balance in the capabilities but just not as strong potentially, right? So.
Yes. And if you wanted to do something that was kind of in line, but you want to have like different themes, you could just use switchable on multiple powers. Yeah. And then maybe have a hindrance where you can't only use them at the same time. But the last thing you talk about power sets, so that's the cost. And then it actually costs an action and a focus roll to do. And not, you can't use, I don't believe they even give the example of, you can use the one where you can switch the skill type. It's just focus for this. And a critical failure means you can't use it for the rest of the encounter. So there is an action cost here too that you have to do. Now, tying it with, they mentioned the transformation hindrance, which we can go over real quick because it kind of ties into this. So transformation is like, the Hulk or what things are like Shazam, right? And the minor version is either they have to summon it or whatever they get injured, whatever it is. They have to don something, whatever it is. If there's no trigger, then they can't transform. The minor hindrance is the character can control the transformation. It's a focus roll as an action. And the major hindrance is they can't control it. Either it's harder. It takes a whole minute, or there's something beyond their control, and it will automatically happen. They actually have to roll focus to stop it. So this is where I was saying that like the minor one doesn't really make sense because that's already kind of baked into the power sets themselves, right? So taking it with that, to me, I don't know, as your GM, right, seems kind of like a throwaway minor hindrance. Because
Yeah.
it's the same thing. You're making an action to change into this other thing, and that's power sets already has that. So
Right. Right.
yeah, that all
Okay.
makes sense.
It makes sense. I mean, it's interesting. I think you
Yeah.
could. I think we spend way too much time worrying about what's in the media, and people go, "I want to create a character like this." I think it opens up, like
Yeah.
you said, if you're having a hard time thinking of examples from the media. There's a few, right? So you could do really kind of crazy, interesting stuff.
Crazy, yeah.
That,
And I believe as a GM, I don't know what you feel. It seems like I wouldn't be as, because they're losing so many power points and their power limit is lower across the board, that the flexibility, like I do feel like they balance the con and the pro here. I don't know. What do you feel? Just your initial reaction? Do you think it's balanced in that way?
I think it's pretty balanced. You get some for it, but yeah, it's got a big price, and
yeah,
it's always about the concept that you want to play. And me as a game master, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm a little bit of a pushover. If you want to do something, because I can always make something that goes against you still.
Yeah.
It's in my purview to make something that still challenges you, and I want you to play something you're interested in. So this is yet another tool in the toolbox for players to do interesting stuff. With, like you said, it's more balanced. You don't get all of this for free.
I definitely think this can, there could be a lot of examples. A really easy one to my mind is basically kind of like the example they give, but like a kind of like a Hawkeye character, like a skilled character that just has like a lot of extra skills and, equipment with him. And then for some reason or another, they, doing their job as like a special agent or something, came into contact with some alien or arcane or occult force, right? This is the easiest thing my mind goes to. So they have this, their normal kind of, like Black Widow, Hawkeye kind of character power set. And then they can, because they were exposed to this, they can turn it to Thor or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that to me, that's where my mind goes. But this does open up a huge venue. So overall, I like it. I mean, in one part of me is a little sad that you can't do the Hawkeye arrows, but I get that they were like, this was just too powerful, right? So, yeah.
All right. So that's power sets. Interesting part of the Superpowers Companion. Once again, this is Tabletop Tango. Look at the bubbles, do the stuff. Support us so we can buy more Savage Worlds stuff because it's cool. So I'm Carl with
Eric.
And we appreciate everybody watching. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
It's a savage world in the land of the dead. It's a savage world. Play whatever